Anyone who watched the show remembers the energy. Crews rolling up on people who had no intention of handing their vehicles over without a fight. Shouting matches, near brawls, tension that felt like it could boil over any second. That unpredictability was a whole draw. But it wasn't just noise. Each person on screen brought something different. Ron came across as loud and intimidating, yet clearly had a soft side underneath it. Amy had a gift for either defusing a situation instantly or cranking it up just as fast. And Bobby always looked like he was one heartbeat away from tackling someone. At its height, the show was drawing close to 3 million viewers per episode, the kind of number that turns a niche cable program into a genuine pop culture talking point. People discussed it the next day the way they discuss a live sporting event. It had drama, comedy, tension, and flashes of real emotion. Shows with that kind of pull don't usually just vanish for no reason, which raises the obvious question. What actually ended it? Before getting into the cancellation, it's worth addressing the debate that's followed the show for years. How much it was genuine. Here's the twist. True TV never actually marketed it as reality TV. The network's own language of the genre was actuality, built around the tagline, not reality, actuality. It's a clever way of dodging a question the network clearly didn't want to answer directly. The company was real. The people were real. The repossessions genuinely happened. But a lot of the episodes were dramatized, scripted versions of real events. Storylines loosely inspired by things that actually occurred, then punched up for entertainment value. So, yes, everything had a factual foundation, but the drama level shown on camera was significantly amplified. For most fans, that didn't really matter. The cast members were compelling enough on their own that even a scripted framework couldn't dull their personalities. Ron didn't need a script to be interesting, and neither did Amy or Bobby or anyone else in that shop. Still, as audiences became more media literate about how reality shows are actually produced, some of that magic started to wear thin. Once people begin questioning a show's authenticity, it's hard to win that trust back, especially when the network itself is shifting its programming priorities at the same time. That combination doesn't sustain a series forever. The internet has floated a lot of theories over the years. Secret feuds, explosive blow-ups, dramatic collapses. The reality is far less dramatic and far more typical of the television business. By the time Season 4 aired in 2014, the reality TV landscape had already shifted dramatically from where it stood in 2011. New shows were flooding the market. Competition for attention was fierce, and True TV was recalibrating its programming direction. In short, declining ratings and a network moving in a new direction, not some hidden scandal. That said, one real shakeup did hit the show hard: Bobby Brantley's departure. Bobby wasn't just a supporting cast member. He was Ron's closest friend and the emotional counterweight to the whole ensemble. When he left in 2014 to pursue his own business ventures, it changed the show's chemistry noticeably. Behind the scenes, tension had reportedly been building between Bobby and Ron, and that friction eventually became public after the show wrapped. Fans could feel the shift. The spark that made the show feel unpredictable just wasn't quite the same. The final episode aired on August 18, 2014, with no dramatic send-off. It simply ended, the way a lot of reality shows quietly do. But long before any of the fame, this was a small operation built from nothing. So, who were Ron and Amy before television found them? This is the part that often gets glossed over, because the real foundation of the show is Ron and Amy's story before they were TV personalities. Ron was born on April 12, 1972, in Raleigh, North Carolina. His path wasn't a straight line. A college football injury forced him to change direction entirely, and that detour eventually led him into the towing business in the early 1990s, an industry defined by adrenaline and unpredictable confrontations. What set Ron apart was his approach. Rather than just showing up to seize a vehicle, he talked to people, negotiated, and tried to keep things calm, which is almost ironic given how chaotic things often looked on television. By 1998, that hustle had grown into something official. Lizard Lick Towing launched with a single truck and zero fanfare. Over the following decade, that one truck expanded into a full fleet with a growing team, a result of steady, consistent work rather than luck. Amy's background is just as remarkable, and calling her Ron's wife barely scratches the surface. She was a record-holding powerlifter, had dabbled in MMA, worked as a mortician, and co-ran the business alongside Ron. Before Lizard Lick Towing ever became a show, the couple was nearly cast on Wife Swap. Producers only needed a single day of filming with them to realize they had something special. Off camera, Ron is also a pastor and co-founder of a ministry that helps people dealing with addiction and abuse. The contrast between the on-screen chaos and the off-screen substance is striking. Lizard Lick Towing was never a one-person show. It was a true ensemble, and every cast member's story kept evolving long after the camera stopped rolling. Bobby Brantley, the fan favorite and Ron's right-hand man, arguably had the most dramatic post-show journey of anyone in the cast. After leaving the show in 2014, he made an appearance in The Lonesome Curse before shifting his focus toward family life. Then, in 2019, Bobby was diagnosed with pituitary adenoma, a brain tumor. After having it surgically removed, he relocated to Lil Ass Farms with his family to recover. He's based in Pilot, North Carolina today, still full of his signature energy. He married his wife Melanie, known to viewers as Cassie on the show, after the series ended. She's a gynecologist and television personality. Together they have 8 children, and they still appear at fan events alongside the rest of the original crew. Big Juicy, whose real name is Elaine McGilvery, brought chaotic, unshakable energy to the front office and elevated every scene she was in. She's continued moving forward professionally since the show ended and, while intensely private about her personal life, is known to be a devoted mother raising 3 children. She still stays connected to the extended Lizard Lick family for community events. Crazy Dave Eckler, the shop mechanic behind some of the show's most unforgettable moments, has stayed active in the community, including appearances at Bobby Brantley's car show. He's also pursued music, working on a project called the Rocky Cross Project, and now lives in Rocky Cross, North Carolina. Cousin Johnny, Ron's cousin and towing assistant, took the most dramatic exit from public life of anyone in the cast. He's since retired from the spotlight entirely, keeps no social media presence, and shares nothing about his personal or professional life, a striking contrast with someone once known for causing so much drama on screen. Swirly Earl is still listed as a tow truck driver on the Lizard Lick Towing website, still doing exactly what he always did. But while all of these individual stories were unfolding, farms, music projects, quiet retirements, the Shirley family was about to face something no amount of television fame could have prepared them for. In February 2022, the Lizard Lick Towing family was struck by devastating loss. On February 17, 2022, Ron's son, Harley Alexander Shirley, was murdered at the age of 21. The shooting occurred following a memorial gathering for a friend who had died in a traffic accident. Responding to reports of gunfire, deputies found Harley shot inside a vehicle at a nearby gas station. He had gone there simply to honor a friend and never made it home. 2 teenagers, 17-year-old Joshua Stewart and 16-year-old Nathan Christopher Jackson, were charged with firing roughly 20 rounds into the back of a parked vehicle, killing Harley, who was seated in the back. Prosecutors said Harley was the intended target. A 20-year-old woman, Sophie Haggie, who was sitting beside him, was also shot and left permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Prosecutors said she was not an intended target. In the aftermath, a GoFundMe campaign raised more than $80,000 to support her recovery as the community rallied around her. Authorities ultimately made 4 arrests connected to the case. 2 teenagers facing murder and attempted murder charges, along with additional adults charged with obstruction of justice and being accessories after the fact. A 5th suspect was also identified. The legal proceedings stretched on for years. One defendant, convicted in 2024, received a 40-year sentence, a notably severe outcome given the case involved a juvenile defendant. Then in July 2025, Joshua Christopher Stewart, by then 21 and living in Willow Spring, was sentenced after pleading guilty to second-degree murder and attempted murder, receiving consecutive sentences totaling decades in prison. Johnson County's district attorney publicly reaffirmed his office's commitment to prosecuting violent crime, expressing continued sympathy for both the Shirley family and Sophie Haggie's family. In the days following his son's death, Ron turned to the same social media platforms that had once entertained millions, this time to speak openly about faith, grief, forgiveness, and the importance of dialogue around violence, choosing to process an unimaginable loss in public with honesty rather than silence.